2025 was a great year for the firearms industry, and a lot of great pistols and guns came out. These are some of my favorites that were released in 2025, and these are all concealed carry options. Before we get into the details on the guns, I wanted to kind of do a quick overview on what makes a great EDC. Number one characteristic is compact size. So an EDC needs to be similar in size and weight to a Glock 19. I've carried a Glock 19 for a long time. They are some of the most dependable guns on the market, and part of that is the form factor of it. It's easy to conceal. It's not going to be uncomfortable to conceal. You can wear it for long periods of time. And use it if needed. Reliability is the next one. It needs to be 100% reliable. You cannot have a gun that is having failures to eject, failures to feed, failures to whatever. If you were going to be using it to defend your life, defend your family, it needs to be 100% reliable, and there's no room for error in the concealed carry world. Next up is the performance and the shootability of it. The gun needs to have manageable recoil, have a great trigger, and it needs to handle and perform well when you are putting it through its paces. And then lastly is versatility and adaptability. A lot of this boils down to, accessories that you can mount on the firearm, optics readiness and all that. It needs to be able to have a good system for which, you can mount accessories and have aftermarket support for it. First up, we've got the Staccato C 3.6. This is a 3.6 inch bull barrel with a little extended beaver tail. This actually mirrors the Glock 19. So I think that this is a great concealed carry option. The other Staccato HD series, the HD P4 is a Glock 17 size. So that's a little too large for my taste. But the Staccato C 3.6 is exactly the same size as the Glock 19, especially when you factor in the beaver. Definitely checks the box there. Reliability and durability on this thing. Yeah, this is phenomenal. I've not had any malfunctions with this. I've got about 1,000 rounds through it, and honestly minimal cleaning for it. So for this being a 2011, that is kind of phenomenal. It is externally extracted as well, which I think also adds to the reliability of it, and it takes Glock mags, so that's another feature that is going to aid in the reliability of this. It's definitely just a great performer out of the box, which, for the price you would say, well, it obviously needs to be, but at the same time, it is a 2011. So that also is, a concern, being it's kind of got like some race gun background to it. So the shootability and performance of this thing, it has a Series 80 trigger on it, which means that it has a firing pin block. So a lot of folks were concerned, okay, well, it's a Staccato, it's supposed to have a great trigger, it's going to have a firing pin block, it's going to be a bad trigger now. I don't think that's the case. The trigger on this is pretty phenomenal. There's your reset, very crisp. Reset again, and then here's take up, wall, stacking pressure, and then the brake. It is a great trigger out of the box. Manipulation of the safety here is great. When you're reholstering, I like to just ride my thumb up and then holster down. The recoil management of this thing is ridiculous. It's so good. Might be the softest shooting of the bunch. I'll kind of get into recoil management here, but it's extremely soft shooting, being a 3.6 inch barrel. There's a lot of pistols that I've shot that are, sub 4 inches, and they just hurt to shoot. They're very snappy. This manages to tame it down. Staccato has a unique kind of dual recoil spring system in here that really helps with recoil mitigation. So it performs extremely well there. The performance of even, the slide serrations, these are great slide serrations. You get a great purchase on there. Very comfortable to rack. The controls are fully ambi. Mag release is swappable to the other side. It's very lefty friendly if you are, lefty. Overall, great performance that you're getting out of this. The jaded part of me is like, well, yeah, you better because it's $2,500. So yeah, and then the versatility and adaptability. That's the only part on this that drives me a little nuts is the frame is fine. It has a Picatinny mount for your TLR 7s, whatever lights you want to throw on here, but the optics mounting system is kind of stupid. It requires a plate, which is fine. This is a 2011, and 2011's industry standard is to use a plate system, but this is also a Glock mag 2011, so I was kind of expecting it to be, RMR direct mount footprint. But in any case, you have to use a plate, which is annoying because you're paying $2,500 for a gun, and then it doesn't come with a plate. So either have it come with a plate or don't make it use plates. So yeah, I've got a Vector Optics enclosed optic on here right now, which is a competitor to the Aimpoint Acro. I have a separate review out on this. Definitely go check that review out. This is a great optic. But point is, if you want to throw an RMR, Delta Point Pro, Acro, whatever, you've got to get a plate, which is an extra $75, I believe, on top of a $2,500 gun. It's the Staccato HD host system. So definitely a great performer, just a little expensive. Next up is the CZ P10C ported. Kind of a mouthful, but this gun is great. Size of this gun, compactness is, again, identical to a Glock 19. For the reliability and the durability of this thing, I've had 0 malfunctions out of it. I probably have close to 500 rounds through this and have had no malfunctions. I've actually not cleaned this firearm yet. I've still been running it pretty dirty and have not had any issues. I've shot a variety of ammo through it, no hiccups at all. Moving on to the shootability and performance of it, the one thing I did swap out was the trigger shoe. The trigger mechanism itself is stock, but I did swap out the trigger shoe. It has one of those weird like concave triggers on the side. I just am never a fan of those, especially when it has like, that little trigger dingus safety. And then the performance of the safety itself, it's very easy to disengage, very similar to the Glock. This is, it's not similar to a Glock in the sense that this is a fully cocked striker design. So it does not have the same partially cocked striker system as a Glock. But what that means is that the trigger on this is very crisp. So here's the, take up, and then the wall is just a pretty strong wall. And then you just keep stacking pressure and it doesn't move at all and breaks. And then reset right there. I mean, it's very, there's your take up, wall, break. There is almost no squish as you get through that wall, which is very typical on a Glock because you are fully cocking the striker, but this doesn't have that. So this is a great trigger. I think one of the best on the market out of the box. The slide serrations on this, these are from the P01 Nocturne, I believe. It's the same type of slide profile with kind of a tri-top slide serrations. Doesn't bother you when you're racking it, and it's got that port which definitely tames recoil. Weirdly enough, this I think recoils harsher than the Staccato, which is kind of a ding for it in my opinion. This still is a great purchase firearm. I mean, this is $650. It's definitely lacking in the performance department amongst all of these options here. And the grip on this, I was not a fan of the grip texture by default, so I added some tape to it. This is a combat textile grip tape, and it definitely just helps maintain the your purchase on it. It makes it a little more confidence inspiring. And then last up is the versatility and adaptability of it. It has a Picatinny rail for your flashlights. I used to have a TLR7 on this and I took it off just a second ago. But the plate system on this, again, it uses plates, which drives me a little crazy, especially being a P10. I kind of get up for the Staccato because Staccato is just weird and they're Staccato in it. And it's a 2011, so it's kind of understandable. But on this, it's kind of annoying because this is just a common striker fire gun. Like, why did they not just put a RMR footprint on here, direct mill, and then if you want to run a Delta Point Pro, you get a Delta Point Pro plate. I don't know. But point is, it's a little annoying that you have to go buy extra plates and put them on there. But the plates for this are, I think, cheaper than the Staccato. I think they were $30 or $40. So I've got a Redwin Optics MTR on here. This is a great optic as well, fully enclosed, barely $200. This is a great enclosed optic if you're not wanting to, put down, $300 or $400 plus for an enclosed optic. I'll have a separate review on that, but that's also an option, awesome option. All right, then moving on to the Derya DY9 Island Upper. So this is the upper only is technically what I am, reviewing here. This is on a Shadow Systems MR920 lower. The DY9 is a Glock 19 Gen 4 upper. I swapped out a custom backplate on this, which is a Gen 5 backplate, so it can actually run on a Gen 5 Glock. This is a Gen 4 frame, so it can run on Gen 4 stock. It can also run on Gen 5 if you swap out the backplate, which costs, I don't know, $10 or $20 maybe. But, overall size of this, obviously it's made for a Glock 19, so it fits exactly in that Glock 19 category perfectly. Reliability of this, again, no reliability issues at all. This thing has been flawless out of the box. I have over 500 rounds through this at this point and have had 0 malfunctions, which is impressive because personally, I didn't know Derya firearms existed as a thing, and Derya is making some really good stuff. This is one of the examples of, what, a foreign manufacturer is really capable of putting out there. You've got window cuts in here, some nice slide serrations, which really help, rack the slide. It's got the island ports on this. I mean, that's crazy to see, looking at that. That's usually something that you see on like high-end race 2011s, right? Where the only part that's reciprocating is like this kind of U-shaped part of the slide. And that front sight post doesn't reciprocate. So shooting this with irons is going to help you maintain that sight picture because, that's not moving. That's staying still, just the rears are moving. So, so it helps in that regard. But yeah, reliability, flawless. Shootability is excellent with this. The ports here help a ton. I think that this is smoother shooting than the Staccato, and I would hope so because it has 4 ports. The only issue with this is that the rifling extends, these ports are going through the rifling of the barrel, so that does mean that metal shavings are going to be somewhat ejected. I haven't been hit by them, but if you're ever shooting this from retention, very close to your chest, you will get some metal shavings, sparking out of there. So that's something to be aware of. The gas pedal on this is also not stock. That's part of, I believe it's called Go Pedal. I'll put a correction of, or an asterisk of whatever the name is. But yeah, this is, $60 or $70 and just a nice little gas pedal for your Glock, but that's not part of the Derya. Versatility and adaptability. This gun finally comes with direct mounted for an RMR footprint, and it's like, holy crap, finally. Why does it take all of these guns and this is the only one that is direct mounted for an RMR, for the most common optic on the planet? This optic is a Cyelee Wolf EDG Pro. This is possibly one of my favorite enclosed optics. I like it a little bit more than this Redwin. It just has a little bit better clarity on the glass, less distortion, brighter dot, and I think it's like $250 or $300. So definitely a great option as well for an enclosed RMR footprint optic. So overall, how I rank these, if budget is no concern at all, and you just want a great EDC option, then the Staccato HD C3.6 is where it's at. You just have to, buy the extra optics plate and kind of deal with it. Takes Glock mag, so that's nice. If you have a Glock 19 already, and you want to get just a DY9 upper, it's about $300. Derya does sell a DY9 island ported complete pistol, and that's $600. So basically $300 for the upper, $300 for the lower. That's $600. The DY9 is, I would just purchase the upper receiver, or the upper slide assembly itself, and then go buy, spend $100 with like SCT manufacturing, I believe, or Palmetto State, get one of their, dagger lowers for like $100, and then, you're $450 out the door, and you've got an entire, pistol. But really, if you already have a Glock 19, this is a great option. It's kind of what I would do. But if you're, first time looking into a gun and you don't want to deal with swapping out slides and backplates and all that nonsense, then the P10C ported is easily a just god tier option for, your first time getting a pistol. This is something that I would absolutely recommend to any brand new shooter. This is going to serve you extremely well, conceal well. You just have to navigate kind of the optics plate system there, but that's not really that big of a deal. This is just a great option for a brand new shooter. So, all these have their own place, but I think, definitely the Staccato is my favorite pick out of all of these, and, definitely my favorite to carry here. So, yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you've got any other options that I should consider that, are the 2025 EDC options. And yeah, let me know. Appreciate it. Thanks, y'all.